Lake and the City Manager's Office. Tonight is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, at a regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to take a moment to introduce city officials and city administration with us in attendance this evening. To my right, Jennifer Stewart, City Clerk. In the audience with us this evening, Councilmember Ambrose and Councilmember Woods. With us electronically, Consultant City Planner Mr. Mario Ortega and City Attorney Venerian, and Assistant City Manager Chelsea Pesta. I'd like to now take a moment to recognize Mr. Rob Wittes of Merge Live, who is assisting with us to do our live streaming this evening. Chairman Wolfson, I'd like to turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Please rise for pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Novak, O'Rourke,
Here.
Osnick,
Here.
Palmer, Witt,
Here.
Wolfson,
Here.
McComas.
Here.
Thank you. Chairman Wolfson, we have a quorum for this evening.
Very good. Do we have any requests for any agenda changes? No requests for agenda changes? Okay. Can I have a motion for the approval of the Planning Commission's meeting minutes for January 11th, 2022?
O'Rourke will make a motion to approve the minutes from January 11th, 2022.
Osnick will second.
Okay. All approved? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay. This time we'll open up for audience participation. If anybody has anything they'd like to present to this Planning Commission.
We would like to provide some information for those that are attending in person and those that are attending virtual. Members of the public who do wish to speak during audience participation via the virtual means may press star 9 on their telephone keypad. By pressing star 9 on the telephone keypad, it'll activate the raise hand feature. And then we do ask that you introduce yourself by stating your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to share your comments. Is there anyone virtual that wishes to speak? Mr. Chair, there are none virtual that wish to speak. Is there any audience physically that wishes to speak? Is it pertaining to one of the cases tonight? We'll open up public hearing during that time frame.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you. Any communications?
Yes, Chairman Wolfson, one letter of communication that I'd like to read into the record this evening.
Please.
In your packet, it's page 7. To the Walled Lake Planning Commission, 1499 East West Maple Road, Walled Lake, Michigan, 48390, from Jerry Anderson, 127 South Pontiac Trail, Walled Lake, Michigan, 48390. Subject in regards to 174 South Pontiac Trail, parcel ID 1734-412-038, request for a shed on the waterfront lot. Dear Planning Commission members, having reviewed the applicant's plans and reasons for wanting to build a shed on the property, I could not agree more that this should be approved. Having lived on Pontiac Trail just west of Walled Lake Drive for 44 years, I could give numerous examples of speeding, red light running, and accidents that make this stretch of road a challenge to navigate. The shed would reduce the number of crossings needed, the ability to secure belongings in a safe place. The low profile of the shed fits the lot and does not affect views of the lake for neighboring owners. Thanks, Jerry Anderson.
Thank you. Are there any other communications?
No, sir.
That's it? Okay. Commissioner, was it Ortega? Would you like to present the first case, PC 294, and then we'll have a public hearing, or do you want the public hearing before that?
If you'd like, I can present the information first so the public can have some information prior to their comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Mario Ortega. I'm the city planning consultant for the city of Walled Lake. Tonight, we're here to discuss a proposal for a special land use for 174 South Pontiac Trail. The site is a 1,700 square foot lot directly adjacent to Walled Lake itself, and is currently occupied by an existing patio and beach along the lake's edge. The applicant is proposing to construct a 320 square foot beach shed to be used for storage of items and shelter in inclement weather. Now, the site has been used as a private beach in the past, however, has never received approval for the use and is currently legally non-conforming due to the historic nature of the site. Now, the construction of the shed would alter and expand the intensity of the non-conforming private recreation use. And legally non-conforming uses cannot be altered or expanded unless they are approved under our current ordinance standards. So the applicant has applied for the special use, which is listed specifically in the zoning ordinance for a private non-commercial recreation use is permitted in the R1A district after this special use review and consideration. Planning commissioners, you have my letter with regards to the ordinance requirements for and criteria for special land use. I'd just like to point out a couple highlights. Number one being the compatibility of the surrounding uses and the zoning is important when considering special uses. And in this instance, the uses to the east and west have been used as beaches or board docks historically, which is per the zoning ordinance, part of this is defined as a private non-commercial recreation use. And the intent of the applicant is to continue the private non-commercial recreation use through this addition of a structure. So the proposed alteration would be compatible with the recreation uses that have gone on in this area. However, we do note that the site has a larger lot depth from the lake than most waterfront lots. Despite that fact, the construction of the shed will require variances. So should any approval be granted, it should be contingent upon the applicant obtaining said variances. One other point is the consistency of the intent of the ordinance. You know, the intent of the R1A district is to provide for single-family residential use, and the applicant is proposing to continue to use this site by a single family for their own private non-commercial recreation use. So the proposed use would be consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance. One other issue just to point out and to highlight is that another factor to consider is whether this proposed use would promote the use of land in a socially and economically desirable manner. The city's property owners have historically used the land adjacent to the lake for their private recreational enjoyment. And the city has protected those private rights to enjoy the lake by listing private non-commercial recreation use within the zoning ordinance as a use for the land. However, the city has also recognized that, on the other hand, that the lake is a public asset that should be enjoyed by all residents. The city has established this public benefit through ordinances that prohibit opaque fences and that limit the fence heights so that public views can be maintained. With this particular site, due to the unique drop in elevation, the proposed installation of the shed will not negatively impact the views of the lake. In addition, due to the size of this particular lot and the size of the proposed structure, the lot coverage will be less than 5%, which would be a minimal impact to the developed nature of the property. So we believe this use, the particular use as proposed, would find that balance between allowing property owners to enjoy their private land while also respecting the public benefit of the views of the lake. With that in mind, as I mentioned, the proposed continued use of the site for private non-commercial recreation use is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance and is compatible with the adjacent uses. In this instance, at this location, the lot size and proposed shed size and location will not negatively impact the views of the lake. We would recommend that the Planning Commission grant special use approval contingent upon the applicant receiving site plan approval and the necessary variances. With that, I will take questions from the commissioners or the public at any point in time.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any thing to say to the commission? Yeah.
Yes, please, yep, the podium. Thank you. And try to talk as close to the mic as you can, please. Thank you.
I tend to be a bit of a loud talker, so
That's
I don't
fine.
think I'll have a problem with it. But I know we're trying to get it so that people remotely
Yes.
can hear us too. My name is Brandon Grisco. I'm an attorney with a Northville-based law firm. I'm here representing Frank Christopher and his family, the owners of 174 South Pontiac Trail. You know, frankly, the letter from Jerry and Mr. Ortega's review and recommendation, you know, I view as being favorable to the Christopher family. I don't know that I have terribly much more to add, other than to say that Frank and his family have been residents here since 1999, good neighbors, beautifully landscaped lot with no history of violations or anything like that. That would give any cause for concern, I don't think, with respect to this particular use of the property. One thing I want to highlight that Mr. Ortega said relating to the use of the property and the intensity of the use, I know sometimes that can be a cause for concern as to whether or not you know, a grant of special approval like this would increase the intensity of use. And I think here what we see is that it's really not going to be a concern, I don't think, because it's still going to be a single-family residential property and it's still going to be used for that purpose. So really we're adding the benefit to Mr. Christopher and his family of the safety and security of having shelter and storage capabilities there for their personal property, very much so consistent with the residential use of the property, and also the added safety of not having to go back and forth across Pontiac Trail, which I think, as we heard in the letter that was read into the record, can be a cause for concern. You know, and so as the commission considers the special land use, I just hope that it takes into consideration the favorable recommendation for Mr. Ortega and the city, and also the fact that the residents in the area seem not to have objected to it. And in fact, at least one resident has spoken favorably about it, and the fact that this is a good idea and something that we would like to see. I actually have renderings here, photographs for the commission, if I can approach through the chair to hand those out. I think it'd be beneficial for the commission to consider what this project would look like. I'll just hand them all to you, if you don't mind. You guys can pass them around there.
Pretty nice.
So I think the commissioners can see from the photographs this is an aesthetically pleasing project. Again, there's not going to be any sightline issues. You can see in the photographs there the relatively low profile of the proposed structure combined with the location of it. And I think you can see in there a little bit the fact that the houses in the background and the folks that may be passing by on the roadway would still clearly be able to see the lake, and so you would have minimal interference really with the public benefit that others in the city enjoy for the lake. So Mr. Christopher and his family would respectfully request that the commission approve the recommendation and grant this special land use approval.
Thank you very much. Okay.
And if there's any questions from the commission, I'd be happy to take them, or Mr. Christopher, I'm
Have
sure would
any
be.
questions for this
I'd
gentleman?
like to have the public hearing, if there's
Yeah,
anybody else,
absolutely.
before we get into the discussion.
Okay.
I mean, I'm already convinced I know how I'm going to vote, so.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to open up for a public hearing. If anybody has something to say, please step up to the podium, give your name and your address.
Yeah, my name is Adrian Hill. I'm at 162 South Pontiac Trail, so I'm the Christopher's neighbor. I took a while to review the proposal, and for me it looks like a very well thought out proposal, and also reiterate the comments from Jerry about the busyness of the road and the fact that will increase the safety for the family crossing over. We've also experienced the busy road. So I would be completely okay with it as a neighbor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, closed public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any?
I have something. I support the proposal as recommended by our consulting planner. I think the improvements down there are very useful. I'm sure that somebody here is going to talk about the improvement in public safety alone. It's going to look good. It's going to clean up the area down there. So they have my vote when we get there. I'm also pleased that some of the neighbors had their input. Mr. Anderson, he has some sway down there. He's been involved down there a very long time. So his letter means a lot to me. You can thank him for writing your letter. So Mr. Christopher and his wife should get this, and my vote would be yes.
Anyone else?
I have no issues with this. In fact, it looks like it could enhance the public safety. That's the portion of Pontic Trail, as in the application. It is a rather hazardous area on times. So if this can improve the public safety, I'm all for it.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions. Some recommendations from Mr. Ortega. The applicant must provide elevations for the proposed structure and indicate on a revised site plan if utilities will be installed by the new shed. Any site plan approval should be contingent upon receiving necessary variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. My question is, landscaping, did say something about existing landscaping is on there, but they might need would require submittal of a separate landscape plan that includes any additional landscaping if you're going to have any. There was something in the special land use about a, where is it? I think it was about sidewalks due to dropping it over
That's on
there.
the site
Is there any
plan.
signing during them?
That's on the site plan review.
Yeah. Okay. If we were, I think this would require two motions. One to approve the site plan, or one to, first of all, approve the special land use, and then one to approve the site plan. Or can I put them both on the same motion?
Sounds about right.
No? Okay.
Put them both in the same motion or two separate?
Two separate motions.
Two separate motions, okay.
But
The other issue,
all of anything we do, we address all of the issues in the McKenna letter.
right,
They get included into our motion.
into the motion.
Yes.
Would the variance have to be done by the Zoning Board of Appeals before we approve or disapprove the
Special land use.
special land use and the site plan?
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay, so we would table this till we get that?
The site plan we have.
We can always say that we approve it and contingent
Contingent
upon
on
them getting the variance.
Right, okay.
So we can do it that way.
Okay.
That way we,
Sorry, through the chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Sure.
Interject myself again into the commission's business, but, so I think as you deliberate, I'm not sure the direction this is going, but I think that the gist of it is that, Mr. Christopher, I think in the plans that were submitted, there is a sidewalk actually already on the north side of Pontiac Trail. So I don't know if that was shown on the documents that you have in your possession, but I have documents that show that, so to the extent we need to supplement those, I think we have the ability to do that.
Yeah, we do have pictures of those, and that's, I want to just kind of make sure we're handling these two issues, or these two proposals, the land grant and the special land use and the site plan review separately, correct? So should we vote on this first and then talk about sidewalks and such? Because there are a number of questions I have on this one.
well, if memory serves, in our ordinance, any improvement to a lot abutting the roads, they are required to put in a 5-foot sidewalk, even though it's strictly on just their property, and there are no adjoining properties that have been improved, okay? But that has been the protocol in the city for quite some time, is to require a business owner or a lot owner to put a sidewalk in front of their property.
Okay, because on that side of the road, on the south
That's
side
the south
of
side.
Pontiac Trail, it's all gravel the entire way, and on the north side, of course, there's a nice sidewalk.
That's correct, you're correct.
And so, in turn, then we'd be asking him to put in a 5-foot sidewalk, the stretch of his property, but then it'd continue to be
correct.
gravel on either side. And that,
Sidewalk to nowhere, is
but
it?
does that really make sense to him, for him to incur that cost?
Well, but actually,
That'd have
that's,
to go in
the
front of
south
zoning.
side is traditionally used quite a bit for pedestrian traffic.
It is.
So, any improvement, and it goes according to the ordinance. So, if he wishes to get a variance away from that, then he would have to go before the zoning board of
Zoning board.
appeals.
Okay. Then, Mr. Ortega, in regards to the sidewalk, if it is mandated or staying within ordinances, is there a setback between the edge of the road, the south side of Pontiac Trail, and the north side of where his sidewalk would be? Is there a certain amount of space that would have to be there? And then also between the other side of the sidewalk to his fence line?
There's nothing in the ordinance that specifically has any dimensional requirements for those type of setbacks, if you will, or separation from those type of improvements. Historically, it would be most beneficial to have at least a 5-foot area between the edge of sidewalk and the curb or the travel lane of a passing road. But there are many instances within the city where we don't have the luxury of that benefit, as can be seen in the downtown area and other areas. And even actually along this part of South Pontiac Trail itself, further to the east, I believe at least in front of the condos, if not in front of the existing single-family home that's adjacent to the condos, I think there is a sidewalk there.
There is, yeah.
And it is pretty close. Now, obviously, it's not the best case scenario, but it's a better case scenario, or I should say that the addition of a flat surface would, benefit other residents that are walking along the edge, rather than being gravel. They at least have that short distance, which if they're pushing a baby stroller or something to that effect, they would have a flat surface to drive upon. And the intent, as with all other properties in the city, is to eventually have adjacent properties also construct a sidewalk to complete that surface. So while we know that, at this point in time, it might just be a small segment of paved sidewalk, it is something that in the long run would be beneficial. Now, whether it's, whether the applicant chooses to get a variance from that, I'm not sure economic hardship is necessarily a practical difficulty for that, but that would be a different discussion reserved for the ZBA at that time.
So as I understand it, it could be up to us when we make a proposal to approve or not approve, to not require a regular sidewalk put in. Would that be correct?
Well, it actually is in the zoning ordinance, so they would actually have to get a variance
They would have to get a
from
variance.
the ZBA for that standard. It is a requirement specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. I think I did cite that section. But I think the applicant's attorney said they might already have that sidewalk, and if that's the case, then that would just be something that could be provided on a revised site plan and approved administratively. And just to point out, similarly with other site plan issues, in terms of the landscape plan, that was just a note indicating if the planning commission wanted to see a separate landscape plan. The site is extensively landscaped,
Right.
and there are no specific requirements for the landscaping. But if the planning commission felt there was a need for a certain landscape improvement in a certain location, you could discuss that with the applicant. And then I believe that was probably the only other site plan issue.
Okay.
And then just, based on my conversations with the applicant, I do not believe they intend to put utilities to this shed. So if that's the case, they would just have to have a note stating no utilities will be installed. And that would just be a text note added to the site plan.
Okay. Is that agreeable on that? There's not going to be any utilities put in, or do they want utilities?
Yes, we'd be happy to have site plan approval be contingent on adding a note, a textual note to the site plan that it not have utilities, that it's not going to have utilities run to it. And our intent, pardon me? Okay, so I'm being told by Mr. Christopher that updated documents were submitted that do have a text note on the site plan that shows no utilities being run, so I don't know if we have that in our file right in front of us or not, but I think that's in the works if it's not in front of you already.
Okay.
It was our intent, however, to ask for a waiver of any more extensive landscaping requirements that the commission might otherwise be inclined, based on, the statements of Mr. Ortega that the site is landscaped well and things of that nature. We hope the commission's amenable to that. And just to make sure that I'm correct on the record, the sidewalk is on the north side of Pontiac Trail, not on the south side, which is the side that's adjacent to Mr. Christopher's property. We prefer not to have to put in a sidewalk in that area particularly. It seems like a strange area to have a sidewalk with the curve of the road being what it is right there. Actually, to me, it seems that pedestrian traffic would probably be dangerous in that area, probably better served on the north side of Pontiac Trail. However, Mr. Ortega has indicated to the commission that it's not this body's place to make that determination, but that is something that I think we intend to carry forward to the extent possible.
Okay. If, so right now I believe there's a gravel, it's kind of like a gravel sidewalk there. Okay. Would you be amenable to putting in a regular sidewalk for your portion? Because if not, then I guess one of the variances would be need to get from the zoning board of appeals to
That would
do
be,
without that.
that would be up to the zoning board of appeals.
Correct, yeah.
That's
So,
so,
but it will be in our
whatever the
motion.
zoning board of appeals comes up with as a variation away from this 5-foot sidewalk, that would be up to them. That's not the deliberation of this body.
Right.
What we have before us tonight is a site plan approval and a special land use approval. That's it. Then the applicant would have to take it before the zoning board of appeals to get relief from this 5-foot sidewalk. That's the process.
So I suppose in response to Mr. Wolfson's question, we are not necessarily making an affirmative statement that we're not going to do it, but if we do need to seek recourse for the zoning board of appeals, we may do so.
That's it.
Well,
Yes, but-
any discussion about what you're going to do as far as the sidewalk, that's the deliberation needs to be taken somewhere else. We have no input onto that. This body does not deliberate for the
course.
zoning board of appeals.
I guess the issue I have, and I was trying to help, is if the zoning board of appeals decides to say, no, you got to put in the sidewalk.
Then that runs-
Then that runs, you'll
Right,
have to
and
do that.
That runs with the
Right,
with
with
the
the zoning,
land.
right. Just wanna
Whatever
make
they
sure
come
that's
up with
clear.
runs with the land.
Right, and the
so-
petitioner would have a certain amount of time, I'm sure, with which to act upon its variances or lack thereof in the special land use, or else it might expire, according to what I'm sure is in the zoning ordinance.
I just want to make sure it was understood.
Understood.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, good.
That's the process.
That's the process. So what I would like to hear a motion then to approve the special land use review, and based on the conditions of McKenna.
Olsnecker will make the motion for the special land use,
Yeah.
per the review by McKenna, and incorporating any issues that McKenna has come up with in regards to the special land use.
Right. Second. Have a second?
I'll second it. O'Rourke seconds.
Any further discussion? Okay. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Novak, O'Rourke,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes,
McComas.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Passes.
Now, I'd also like to have a motion to approve the site plan of the 174 South Pine for the same thing with the requirements set forth by McKenna, and to include that there will be no utilities put on. And, yeah, landscaping, I think, is fine the way it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This is Commissioner O'Rourke. Regarding PC 294, the site plan approval, I'd like to vote yes. This is for address 174 South Pontiac Trail and applicant Frank Christopher. I'd like to go ahead and vote to approve the site plan review as presented by McKenna, along with any additional special comments made within here, and also, of course, adding on the provision of no electrical installed in the structure itself.
Right, and this would be also predicated on them getting site plan approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Zoning Board of Appeals, okay.
Second.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
Then Osnick will second it.
All right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Could I have roll call vote, please?
Novak, O'Rourke,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
McComas.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. Any unfinished business?
No unfinished business.
Okay. We have new business, PC 293 site plan, address 1109 Decker, applicant James Christie. Mr. Ortega, could you please present the applicant?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Before us tonight is an applicant that's wishing to for a new industrial development. The site is 1.27 acres in area, and it is currently utilized as a boat storage yard and currently has no structures on the site. It is a rectangular gravel lot that is surrounded by privacy fencing and is located at the end of a private drive that serves multiple parcels with direct access onto Decker Road. The applicant is proposing to construct a 9,000 square foot steel structure for indoor boat storage. Looking at this for site plan approval, a storage facility is a principal permitted use in the I-1 district, so the use is consistent with the I-1 district. Looking at the dimensional standards, they are in compliance with the majority of their standards for area, width, and setback. However, with regards to the front yard setback and the rear yard setback, as proposed, the building is not in compliance with those standards. It's a 50-foot front yard setback, which right now is measured from the southern property line along their private easement for the road. And so therefore the rear yard lot line is the northern lot line. So, and that requires a 25-foot setback from that northern lot line. So the applicant will need to either provide a revised plan with the building size reduced or relocated so as not to encroach on the front and rear yard setback requirements, or the applicant will have to apply for a variance. With regard to the building itself, elevations and floor plans have been provided. It would be a typical industrial building. It's going to be a rigid steel frame structure, has steel panels of an unknown color, actually, and is, like I said, pretty much a standard for the type of industrial buildings we've seen recently. A landscape plan has not been provided. However, the site plan notes that a 6-foot-high wood screen fence is proposed, and this would be consistent and meet the screening requirements of the zoning ordinance. So details of the fence construction need to be submitted for a final approval. And in addition, we would defer to the city engineer when it comes to the grading and drainage details for the sites to ensure that it is adequately dealing with stormwater. With regards to parking requirements, this is a warehouse facility. However, it does require that type of storage has at least a minimum of 5 parking spaces plus 1 for each employee, the peak working shift, or 1 for each 1,700 square foot of usable floor area, whichever is greater. So based on the fact that there's 2 employees, but also it's going to be 7,200 square foot of usable floor area, the minimum required parking is 9 spaces. I know the applicant has proposed 5, so an additional 4 parking spaces would have to be provided on a revised site plan. One other question we have, just to ensure usability of the site, is that the applicant is proposing 1 12 by 12 foot overhead door at the southeast corner of the building, and then 3 12 by 12 overhead doors at the southwest building corner. There is some area between the building and the fence line. However, we're not sure that the type of vehicles that the applicant would be utilizing to place the boats within the building. If it's merely a one truck and a vehicle, a trailer, or if they're utilizing some larger storage trailers, increasing in length maybe to a 20 or even 30 foot in length. So we would suggest that the applicant indicate on a revised plan the vehicle maneuvering path for the inner and outer wheels of the vehicles, or at least note the type of vehicles that would be storing in the site. Basically, if the applicant was, say, for example, had a tractor trailer, semi-tractor trailer scale structure that went and obtained several boats and then drove this larger vehicle onto the site, they might have issues storing the boats inside the building. We would just ask the applicant to provide clarification on making sure that the access to the vehicle, the building, is appropriate for their use. The applicant is not proposing a dumpster enclosure because there's not a proposal for any type of commercial service for dumpsters, trash removal, and the applicant has indicated that no new lighting is proposed at this time. If any lighting is proposed in the future, it must be in compliance with the ordinance standards at that time, meaning that lighting must be fully shielded and directed downward and to minimize glare. So this proposed structure will provide a value to the property owner and to customers patronizing the business. We have made several suggestions in regards to site plan compliance, and so based on these recommendations, based on these issues, we would be comfortable recommending the Planning Commission grant site plan approval contingent upon the addition of the requested information outlined in our letter. And with that, I will take questions or questions at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to hear something.
So the address of the storage lot is 1109 Decker, and the front lot is always the addressed site. So my front lot is actually the smaller, and my side lots are the longer. So my setbacks are correct based on how front lot and rear lot works according to my site manager. I'm not a professional, but he said as long as the address of it is facing Decker, that's the front, and then the 2 long sides are the side. So that's how we set up our setbacks. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how we came up with everything. And the setbacks are conforming if you look at the lot, how they're normally deemed front and back and sides.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the
I
applicant?
have a couple of questions. I'm familiar with the lot, the area.
Yeah, it's right here.
Right behind us.
Yeah.
Are you the owner now, or you purchased it, or
Yeah,
you purchased it
I
from?
purchased it a couple years ago and applied for a site plan for an open storage lot and constructed a 6-foot privacy fence and gates. All this is adding a building to that lot.
Okay, I support what you're doing, and
Thank you.
it coincidental that I vote. That's the way this works. I'm
Yeah.
very familiar with the property. The property has a rich history of being everything from a junkyard to a home for homeless and drug users and everything else. So any improvement you're doing will be an improvement. When I came to the city almost 12 years ago, it was undevelopable, the whole process, including the building that's now being used. So we've kicked it up a notch. I don't know if you're familiar, but we can put water all the way across your facility if you get that grandiose in the future. You may not have known that. We have a pipe in the back that goes there, and it's costly, but if that's something that comes up in your development, if you're the new owner, other folks didn't want to invest that much, but that whole area there was undevelopable, and it was virtually a junkyard. Some of you have been around long enough to have
It
known.
was.
Yeah.
That property, they towed probably a dozen abandoned trucks and frames and all of that.
I did a lot of it myself when I bought the property.
Well, it was still there,
a lot
but they
of-
did the fill, they were storing it, so I support any improvements you've made over there. I
you.
believe that you have, and I appreciate that. I run the city on a daily basis.
Thank you.
And that was one of our big problems some years ago with all kinds of issues over there, and the improvement is coming. It took a long time. I support you 100%, so you got my vote tonight, contingent upon what the consulting planner has recommended in his letter.
So I want to, I appreciate that. I want to clear up, at 1109, there's 3 parcels. I don't own the big building. I just own this parcel that's,
I know
Okay.
exactly where you're
Okay.
talking about.
All right, all right.
It used to be one parcel, as everybody thought, and it was acquired at a tax sale and all kinds of things. A lot of rich history. I know exactly what you own.
Okay.
And,
right.
and they do too.
Thanks.
So we know what you're improving, and that other part is still not like up to speed, but it's being used. When I got here, it was occupied by drug dealers and pig farmers, and
Okay.
I'm serious. It was, so we believe what you're doing, or at least I do.
All right.
Those who've worked with me for 11 years, we believe that's a great improvement. So you got my
well,
vote.
thanks. Yeah, and it's needed around here,
We
boat
will work
storage.
with you to get that developed.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Speak for
and
the city administration, not just the planning commission.
The main thing I need here is I need to get the water and sewer permits, because they won't tell me what that part's going to cost me until I have
It's
permits.
going to cost you a lot, but we can do that, and I will
right.
have staff help you do that if you're willing to spend a lot. Paying for that it could be too costly, but it
Right,
can
I
be
know,
done.
that I need to give them permits so that I can figure out if I can,
I'm more than willing to
afford
sit down with you. If the votes are here
Thank
to
you.
move you ahead, we'll sit down with you and help you get water to it, or
Okay.
show you how to do that. I know how for years, but I was working for the owners of the bigger property.
Yeah.
They weren't willing to pay for it, but if you're the new owner and you want to take a look at that, or maybe get them to join in, partner with you, because they need water too. They can't use that facility in a real way until it gets sprinkled. You can't sprinkle a $50,000 building with a $100,000 sprinkler system. So that's one of the problems over there. That building's not really worth as much as maybe they think.
Yeah.
But they got issues with water too. And I think they're running off a well over there and all of that. So we're more than willing to work with you
Thank
if
you.
you can partner with the rest of the owners over there, whoever's owning it now. And this administration will sit with you and help you develop that, or at least help you work on trying to get a development for water
Thanks.
and sewer. We will do that.
yeah, my project manager said there's one of 2 ways. Either running a main, which you can't afford, or a tap all the way down the easement, which you can't afford.
That's not exactly how it sits, but that's not
Okay.
what they're voting on tonight,
All
or
right,
what I'm
yeah.
voting on. If
All
you
right,
get
I
past
appreciate it.
this, you can still come back and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
We're not boring them with all this
All right.
main stuff.
Well, I really appreciate you helping me
Yeah.
out. If you want me to go through these other ones, I kind of I jotted down a few notes on each one. The landscaping and screening, I just put that in, so I'm going to keep that same fence that was already approved. The parking and loading, I'll add 4 more spots. I must have missed that. And the boats, we're taking them in one at a time with a tractor, so the turning radius is perfect. I can add a note in that. Everything, we're pretty close on the site plan. So as long as I can get a conditional approval on that and permits, I can start with the water and sewer, because that's the main issue that I'm going to run into before doing anything.
The only question that I have is, do you have room enough to move your site, so that you can cure those 2 out-of-compliance issues? Can you move your building so that you can become into compliance on those two issues?
I can't, because I need the size of the building there is.
Okay.
That I have. But if you guys take a look at it and realize that my front was mistaken for the side, it is in compliance, because the front of the lot is facing Decker, and there's more than enough there. There's more than enough in the back, and my sides, one of them's perfectly, 10 feet, which exactly is what the side is, and the other one's more than enough. So, I guess, take a look at that.
Chairman,
Yeah, that's the only issue that I could see, but,
I think we can work that out with him. I think we
Right,
move this ahead.
okay.
What is your front? You're still having to use the access from Decker, right? And
Yes.
that's somebody else's road. So you have to go through a piece of property to get to yours. Is that not true?
I do, and there's an easement on there that I made sure of before I bought the property.
Well, I was going to say, if you've
Yes.
got a passable easement, then you're good, and we can help you on that too. So I'm just more familiar with that property because it was so many problems for not the police department and my shop in the city manager's office. So we'll work with you on all of that, but you got to get by this group. And
Okay.
the rest of it, we'll sit down with you and get it if you're
Yeah.
serious about developing it in a real way.
I've got cameras and security and everything back there now. Nobody.
I haven't been
goes
there in a
around
few
it.
years.
Okay.
Didn't see it, and I promise you I'll be visiting that very shortly.
Yeah, check it out. I appreciate that.
I have no issues with this improvement.
It was a terrible, I don't know, I mean, it was, that whole area, not just his
whole
property.
area,
And there really was trucks rusted, probably from the 50s, I don't know, maybe even older than that. There was some really old stuff over there. They towed it away, I think, before you purchased, but they still left a lot.
Right.
So you didn't even get the full package. When you
Okay.
I saw that 12 years ago.
Right. My package was enough. It was a lot of work,
So any improvement over there is good for Wall Lake. It was absolutely valueless, and if he's given value to it, we need to give him a shot at doing it, and administration will help him at least come up with an idea whether you want to do all that you want to do. And that
Right.
includes trying to help you with how to do a better job or more efficient way of putting in water and sewer.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Well, if there's no further discussion, is there any further discussion on this? Then I'm prepared to make a motion to approve site plan PC 293, site plan approval for 11909 Decker, subject to the provisions of the McKenna letter dated February 3rd, 2022, and that would be my motion.
And O'Rourke will second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Novak, O'Rourke,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes,
McComas.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
very good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any commissioner comments?
I think the best thing we did tonight was try to help this gentleman develop that property over there. It has a rich history.
Yeah.
The property was purchased at least one time on a tax sale, and the owner of the big building, I don't know if he knows that, he thought he bought that parcel that he's got too. So for years, he actually improved it and got it into shape where it was usable, and then the owner who really owned it let him do all the development, cleaned it up substantially, filled it, and then said, that's my property. And the owner who was doing all of that actually was duped. He didn't know that. He didn't understand that he was cleaning, and I mean, he actually did that, and he came to the city. I'm going, no, you didn't buy that part. He didn't look at the legal description.
There's a lot of rich history around this place.
Well, it's not only he thought he owned it, but he actually did work on the property and improved it. I don't know if you consider it improved, but it was really a mess, and it was filled, and so it's usable now, and that's where you're at. But there was a person who didn't really own it, who worked on it for a couple of years and improved it. And then we discovered that wasn't part of it. It's kind of an amusing story because there were butting heads, but it's good to see that whole area is beginning to develop. It's taken 12 years to see any change over there. I appreciate that from those guys.
Hopefully, I think this might be a precursor of that other area, all that area there,
Absolutely.
something developing there and working on that.
It seems that my experience in the couple of years I've been doing this, when development happens, it seems to draw other interests, and they
Right.
start looking at it. It's kind of like the used car or cars place. They build one, and then they all come, you know. They're selling used cars, you know. Chairman, let's go home.
Vote to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
All right, good.
Aye, cool.
I guess we are adjourned.
That's it.
Sounds good.